Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. I hope everybody out there is doing well. Welcome to another episode of Cut the BS. Of course, Cut the BS. My initials are BS. So welcome to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. Don't forget to follow Game On Wisconsin on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you have social media, pretty much at Game On WI. Thank you guys for tuning in for another, as they always are, jam-packed episode. I'm very excited to have you guys tuning in. If you are on the live stream, good evening. I know we got Thursday night football. I know there's basketball going on right now. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you are listening on your smart device, wherever you may get our podcasts, thank you guys so much. As I always say, it is just an honor and privilege to be here to be talking about our favorite teams with you. The motto is on Cut the BS, all Wisconsin, all sports. No BS. I'm joined by a very, 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 very special guest, former Badger and Packer, number 42 in your programs, Mr. Gary Ellerson. As it shows on the bottom there, please follow him on Twitter at Gary Ellerson. He's a co-host of the statewide Wendy's Big Show, a part of the Big Show Network. Gary, good evening. How we doing?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm better now that I got you on the show. That's where we're at right now.
That's good. That's good. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
Sure, no problem.
I got to ask you real quick before we talk sports. I know the show says all sports, but I got to ask you. You're from Georgia. Where in Georgia are you from?
A town called Albany, Georgia, South Georgia, a little bit down by Dothan, Alabama, and Tallahassee, Florida, right down in there. Yeah.
I was in the Army for a while. I was stationed all over. I lived in Georgia for about 4 years out of my 13 years in service, and it was my favorite state I've ever lived in. Out of all of them. Yeah,
really?
I lived in Colorado as well, but Georgia was, I don't know, man, like you can pull over on the side of the highway and get some barbecue. And,
yes, you can.
Like, it's different. I was in I live near Savannah, Georgia.
Well, so that's on the coast.
Yep, and it was great because you were,
yes,
downtown Savannah is beautiful. You have everything down there. You're 3 hours from Atlanta, and then you got the beach an hour and a half away. I mean, it was just amazing. So I had to get that nugget out there. I listen to you every day on the Wendy's Big Show. Again, catch Gary on Wendy's Big Show, statewide in the state of Wisconsin. We're Odyssey app, 10 to 2. He also does the Packers post-game show, which is the best show in the state. I got to ask you, Gary, these Packers, there's a lot of drama this offseason. How do you feel about this team sitting atop the NFC right now?
I think it's great. I mean, it feels like they've come through the offseason drama with Aaron Rodgers, and it feels like they've came through the drama of all the COVID stuff with Aaron Rodgers. And I mean, it feels like this team is focused. I mean, you think about not only that, but all the injuries that has happened to this team so far, and that they've been able to overcome all that. And big credit goes to Brian Gutekunst to get replacement players in for these guys and bring them in. And really Matt LaFleur, the head coach, who's been able to put these guys in the right position to succeed. Big shout out to really Joe Barry. I don't think at the beginning Joe Barry was liked a lot by Packer Nation, in that when you saw preseason, you really couldn't tell what they were doing, like how this was going to be different than Mike Pettin. I mean, I don't think anybody knew. And then you saw the Saints game, you're going like, oh my God, this is not going to work. And then after that, this defense has absolutely been on fire. I think for the most part, for me, I don't know if you're talking like name brand, they may not have that name, like Clay Matthews, Charles Woodson, right? If you're looking at who's the defensive tackle that came over from the Chicago Bears, defensive end pass rusher. If you're looking at Julius Peppers, they don't have the name brand like that on defense, or Tramon Williams, or Nick Collins, but they have a guy, an ascending guy in Rashad Gary, who's absolutely been playing lights out, right? I mean, you look at Darius Smith and Preston Smith is playing well, but he's not playing up to the part that he was the first year that he got here. I think if you look at his team right now, Devondre Campbell, a guy that they go out and get late, we didn't know what he had left in the tank. Kudos to Brian Gutekunst to go getting him. And then for Joe Barry putting him in his offense, I think he has settled down his defense. I think he has settled down his whole defense with his defensive play.
Yeah, and I made the comment, and I know when it comes out of my mouth, Gary, I know it sounds crazy when I say these words, and I understand that they're going to sound crazy because you got guys like Tom Brady, you got guys like Kyler Murray. They're elusive, they're flashy, they win Super Bowls. They know, is Devondre Campbell like? And this is again, this call me crazy. You're the professional football player. Is he in the conversation, or should he be in the conversation for the MVP award? I know it sounds crazy, but when you look at what he's done to that defense, I mean, and he's the number 1 rated inside linebacker right now in the NFL. And
he's a Pro Bowler for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
MVP, that we'll see how far they get, and that will determine MVP. But most certainly, he's a Pro Bowler this year.
Yeah, and I know when it comes out of my mouth, and people look at me like, "What did you?" And it's crazy, but you look at Tom Brady; he's having a little bit of a slip. Kyler Murray's not healthy. Kyler Murray struggled against Devondre Campbell, and you look around him. Like you said, I mean, he's missed. You don't replace Za'Darius Smith. He's an All-Pro outside linebacker.
No,
you don't replace and you don't replace Jair Alexander, who's arguably the best cornerback, and they continue to fill it in. So. Again, it's a credit to I don't want to bring back, open those wounds from the summer and the spring, but I was on the Brian Gutekunst side when the whole Aaron Rodgers saga was going on because he's done really good things. He's drafted really well. I mean, he's done good things. I think, when you look at what does this team do for Aaron Rodgers? Well, there's really good players scattered around this whole organization. He's drafting, in my opinion, a future Hall of Famer in Elton Jenkins. I mean, he does a lot. So, I mean, it goes back to, just being able to produce when the time's right. And looking ahead to week 11, they're over there in Minnesota. I know you guys talked a lot about it this week on the Wendy's Big Show. What are your thoughts going into Minnesota? Because for me, I'm nervous because because I think that the Minnesota Vikings are better, but it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Well, I think it's always a tough place to play. I think you've got not defense coordinator anymore, but the head coach in Mike Zimmer, he's a defensive guy.
Yep.
They hired Mike Zimmer over from Cincinnati because he had some success against Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. And they bring him over. Now, Rodgers have played well against Minnesota, but if you ask Rodgers, he'll tell you that Mike Zimmer poses a lot of problems for him defensively. And it takes him a little bit to process information that Mike Zimmer is putting up on defense for him to go through his progression. So it's always going to be a very physical game. It's a dome facility. It's going to be sold out. It's a rivalry. It's going to be physical. They're going to bring the wood. And the Packers, and what should be Rodgers too on the offensive end, they're going to play the 2 high safeties, right? They're going to want Rodgers to keep everything underneath. And I think that sometimes Rodgers can take his shot with MVS. But I think for the most part, it's going to be a game where Rodgers is going to have to pick him apart to get his yards. Like he's going to have to be patient. And if they're going to go 2 high safety, that means that's one less guy in the box. No Aaron Jones. I think AJ Dillon should get at least 25 touches in this game.
I'm so glad you could tell you work in radio because you hit the segue into the next topic, and I love it. When you look at AJ Dillon now, there's a handful of people, PFF, national guys, local guys that scoffed at that draft pick in 2020 coming out of Boston College. And they sat there and they, I don't want to say made fun of him, but they picked on him and said, he can't do this, he can't do that. He's not able to catch out of the backfield well. Taking a 50-yard running catch really. And what's overlooked about that, it was a bad ball by Aaron Rodgers. It was down low on AJ Dillon's knees, and the dude just with the fantastic mix of balance and speed just turned upfield. What are you seeing in him? You played the position, the position. I love Aaron Jones. Obviously, he's a fan favorite. I love what he brings to this team, to the organization, to the community. I just think there might be something here with AJ Dillon that is not with Aaron Jones, and that's no knock on Aaron Jones.
Well, they're 2 different backs.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of Packer people are trying to compare AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. I think they both work well together in combination. You're not going to see the Eric Dickersons of the world anymore in today's game, meaning that he's going to run it 35, 40 times. That NFL is gone. I think Aaron Jones helped AJ Dillon to be successful because it's a change of pace. The defense see different things. I like them both. AJ Dillon gives you the added advantage of, I can take it to the house 70 yards right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Out of the backfield or receiving. AJ Dillon gives you I can pound you, wear you down, and maybe late third, fourth quarter, I can take it to the house 40, 50 yards right now. So I think when you see, and I think what you're going to see this weekend, you'll see more of AJ Dillon pounding the football against his front. But I think you also got to see Taylor a little bit in this game too, because you can no longer like run the football like they used to back when I played with Dickerson, with Walter Payton, Christian Okoye, Barry Word. And I'm throwing up some names a lot of people may not know, but these are the guys who I played with, right? Those times are over, meaning that they're trying to be more diverse in their offensive setting, because the NFL right now is about spreading the football around, spreading you out, getting the matchups, and they're not so much concerned about running the football as much as they used to.
I want you to speak on a play for me in particular when you're on 3rd and goal from the 1 yard line against Seattle. And I believe it was like 3rd and 1, 3rd and a half a yard, whatever it was. It was the Packers were going in for their second touchdown, which eventually put the game away after that long 50-yard running catch that we talked about, AJ Dillon. On that run, AJ Dillon meets an unblocked, probably Hall of Famer. And the linebacker's name is scattering away from my brain. Bobby Wagner.
Yes.
He meets an unblocked Bobby Wagner, and he's able to make a little bit of a shoulder shrug, however it is that he did, and gets into the end zone and obviously wins the game. How difficult is that? We don't talk about that. You're not going to see it on the NFL Network. Right. That's a Hall of Fame linebacker coming in unblocked, and he had a clean look right at AJ Dillon.
Well, I mean, I think that's what AJ Dillon can do. And, if you're looking at, and if it were me, and I'm not, the head coach, but if you're in short yards and goal line, he's my short yards and goal line back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what he can do. But, see, Aaron Jones, what did he have, like 13, 14 touchdowns last year?
Yeah, 13.
It proved out to be also a very short yards and goal line back. I mean, we saw Aaron Jones hit one up in there and run a couple, 2 or 3 people over. And so he's also capable of doing it. But if you're saying, okay, I just want this big body mass of a guy that I know can do it. Yeah, AJ Dillon, you got. Here's what I would like to see. Why don't we put them both in the backfield at the same time?
I've said that all year myself, Gary.
On short yards and goal line, right? Yep. Why don't I just motion Aaron Jones out of the backfield? I got AJ Dillon sitting there. Basically, Aaron Jones is your second receiver. He's your second best receiver on his team. I split him out along with Devontae, along with Lazard, along with MVS. I can run it or I can throw it. How about, and I think you'll see a little bit more of that later on. Certain coaches don't like to show you everything right away, but I think that's coming. I think you'll see a little bit more of that because they can be a little bit more diverse with the 2 running backs that they have on short yards and goal line.
Yeah, AJ Dillon costed me a little bit of money on Sunday, and I'm not a gambler. I don't know how gambling really works, to be honest.
Me neither.
Me neither. So my daughter, she's 9. She doesn't really watch like a whole lot of football, but she'll sit there and she'll watch, a couple games. And when she knows they're close, she'll come down in the basement and watch with us.
Right.
And after the game, I'm going to tuck her into bed, and she goes, "Dad, can you give me an AJ Dillon jersey?" I'm like, "Oh God."
Oh my.
Well, I'm fine with that.
Get one, that's the one you're going to get.
Exactly.
Because he's going to be here a while.
You can tell he's the mayor. He's going to be the mayor of Door County.
Or Door County, no doubt about it.
So, Gary, looking at this team, again, talking here with Gary Ellerson, former Badger, former Packer. You can find him on 1250 AM The Fan in the Milwaukee area. If you're not in the Milwaukee area, maybe you're out of state, check out the Odyssey app. It's my favorite app. Can rewind and check out all their old shows. You can find them 10 to 2 on the Wendy's Big Show, part of the Big Show statewide radio network. Gary, when you're looking at this team going forward, I'm not so comfortable with how I feel about David Bakhtiari right now. And I don't know if you caught any of Matt LaFleur's press conference today. It was kind of concerning. And that's all the word I'm going to use, because we don't know. The Packers keep things close to their chest. David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, Zadarius Smith, Josh Myers, Aaron Rodgers with the toe injury. Is this something, Gary? Is this team built to sustain this success? Because they are 8-2. They've done it all year without Zadarius. They've done it since week 4 without Jair Alexander. Aaron Rodgers obviously missed a game due to COVID, and David Bakhtiari. We don't know. Can this team maintain this going in to December and January?
Well, here's what I like about it that's better than last year, right? At left tackle last year, for when we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was who? You remember that?
I don't
left
know.
Tackle, was that Billy Turner over there?
It might have been Billy. But what it wasn't?
Now he's over at right tackle, right?
Yep.
And that happened, at the end of the year. Elton Jenkins has been at left tackle all year long. So to me, that's a positive.
That's a good point.
So he's been there. You're not just kind of throwing him in there. He's had practice. He's had time. Now, would I rather have Bakhtiari back at left tackle? Yes, no doubt about it. Would I rather have Elton Jenkins back at left guard? Yeah, no doubt about it. But right now, I'm not forcing a guy to try to win 2-3 games for me that's only been there, right, for 2-3 games. Jenkins been there. Your left guard has kind of been there. Your center. Now, Josh Myers, you'll get back at some point.
Yeah.
And they'll probably reconstruct that. But you're right. It is weird is what's going on with Bakhtiari. Did not practice today at all. You saw the presser with Matt LaFleur. Kind of got a little defensive. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. And that I know that the Green Bay Packers, they are a team that will not play a guy until he's almost 100%. And you're never going to be 100%, but they're going to have him close as possible. My best guess is maybe it's the Rams when you got to play Aaron Donald, or maybe they say we're 8-2 and we won't bring him back until after the bye week.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Packers medical staff, and I absolutely love them because
they're on the side of caution. They're not going to throw you out there,
and that's perfectly fine. Right now, look at you're 8-2. You got in the win column. You have a 4-game lead in the NFC North. You're obviously up in Minnesota this weekend.
And if you go beat Minnesota, that pushes Bakhtiari back even more.
And I'm fine with that. And I said it too. If they beat Minnesota this week, I mean, I know
it's a wrap.
Right. Mathematically, sure. It's not going to, they're not going to win the division this week, but it's going to be pretty impossible for them not to. And I, he just paid him, gave him that big contract, and they're not going to push a 310, 6'4" guy out there after tearing his ACL. Something that I did want to speak to you about, obviously all sports and a little bit of Georgia, but we're still talking about the Packers. When you watch this team, and I'm not a kicker. I can't kick the ball. I have a back. What's weird is you and I have the same back injuries. I was listening to you, and I think I actually texted Sparky to give you some advice on some treatment. So, I can barely get up and down the stairs, let alone kick a football.
Really?
When you watch this special teams, Gary, and I'm talking about the field goal coverage.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? What are you seeing that is the struggle? Now, I know Pat McAfee is saying the laces were turned to the left or whatever. And to me, it just looks like it's a mess. Everything is a mess. And I love Mo Drayton. I love that when he talks. Yeah. I want him to be a head coach one day. I love that dude.
Yeah.
But it's a struggle, and it's a consistent struggle all year. Mason Crosby's missed 7 of his last 14 field goals. What are you seeing on that field goal unit?
Well, first of all, and this is on Brian. I gave Brian Gutekunst credit. Now I'm going to get on him a little bit. You drafted a long snapper that didn't work.
Yep.
You drafted a punter that's also your holder that didn't work. So you had to go out and replace both of those guys.
Yep.
You and I both know that kickers are very sensitive. You can't go changing stuff like that mid-season and hope that it works out. So you replace the long snapper, you replace the punter, who's now the holder, and in the 2 games before, we saw Bojo never turn the laces at all. You see Mason Crosby comes off, and they're having words.
Yep.
And then now all of a sudden, this last game, you saw Crosby, he did turn the laces. And so I think it's just going to take time. But you don't have time during the season when you're making this move. Now, did they get better with the punter? They did. Because Scott wasn't very good at punting. So we got better at punting, but we got worse with the holder. And so I just hope that it doesn't come back and cost them right now.
Yeah, and that's my concern, and you know this, playing up there more than anybody, is the weather. You know, the weather and the wind.
The wind in that bowl is absolutely incredible. People have no idea. And I would tell people, if you would ever go to a Packer game, get there early, watch Mason Crosby go out and kick, and you can tell how bad the wind is there and how far he can kick it, because you can see all that stuff from the north end zone to the south end zone. The thing about Lambeau Field, though, the wind changes throughout the game, so it's never really consistent.
Yeah, it's something.
And you look at Longwell. That's why he went to Minnesota. And had that hell of a career. They don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah, and I going forward, and that's my concern, because it's going to be how this has been such a weird year, because the things that we thought were going to be we thought the offense was going to be good. They were number 1 in the league last year. You had the reigning MVP coming back. You're another year under the Matt LaFleur system. You would have assumed that they would be pick up right where they left off. We figured, we assumed, I shouldn't say figured, that the defense would probably struggle a little bit. We didn't know a whole lot about Joe Barry. Everybody on Twitter told us he was bad at this, that, and whatever. So we assumed the defense, and then what we saw in preseason, we assumed that the defense would struggle, and the special teams has really been solid. Mason Crosby hit every kick last year, and now he's under 60%. With the offseason, with Aaron Rodgers and Brian Gutekunst and the Jordan Love drama, it's just been one of those really weird years, Gary, where you sit back in your chair and you're like, they're 8-2, but I don't know how.
Well, you know how it's defense, right?
Yeah, right now, yes.
I mean, and somebody asked me the other day on our post-game show, because you had Jordan Love fill in for Aaron Rodgers. And I go, listen, Mason Crosby make those 2 field goals, they win the game.
Yep, absolutely.
And then somebody asked me, well, this last game that they played with Rodgers, where they beat Seattle 17-0. So I asked me, hey, Gary, could Jordan Love would have won that game? I go, yeah, because maybe it's 10-0. Maybe they don't get 17. Yep. But maybe it's 10-0. Or maybe it's 3-0. Jordan Love, because that's how well that defense is playing right now.
Yeah, and it's a credit, like you said. I mean, what are the odds of Rasul Douglas getting a game-winning interception on a team that the Packers picked him up out of the practice squad? And I know Whitney Merciless went down, and thoughts and prayers up for him on his recovery. What a pickup that was! I mean, the pressures. Rashawn Gary has turned into an absolute monster.
Pro Bowler.
Oh, yeah, third in the NFL right now in quarterback knockdowns. I mean, that's unheard of. When you look at this is a defense that's held in the last 3 weeks. Murray, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson, a couple Super Bowls and MVPs between them, to a combined 601 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. And that is a credit to Devondre Campbell, Joe Barry, and Brian Gutekunst. It's been just remarkable. So as we wrap up the Packers here, again, talking to Gary Ellerson, follow him on Twitter at Gary Ellerson. I do got to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, Gary. Prediction for Sunday, maybe some thoughts about the game, how you think things may turn out up there in Minnesota.
Like I said before, I think it's going to be physical. 27-24. I think the Packers come away with a win. I think you'll see maybe a Mason Crosby walk-off. If happens, you need to get me back on the show.
Absolutely.
If I call that. But I think it's going to be a typical Vikings Packer game where you're going to see Mike Zimmer and that defense, they come out to play. I'm a little concerned defensively because I think we're down. I don't know how well Rashad Gary will do in this game with that elbow injury. You're down on linebacker, so no Marcellus. So Preston Smith is going to have to go and play a lot. Rasul Douglas, you talked about him. He's going to have to step up, and I think he's played well. Kevin King looks like he's going to be ready to go. They don't give up very big time plays in that secondary, so they keep everything in front of them. I think Savage is having a pretty good year.
Yeah, he is.
I think if you look at what they've done in that secondary, I mean, they played well back in that secondary. And listen, Kenny Clark is having a Pro Bowl year. So I think defensively they'll still be the same. I'm just still concerned. Kirk Cousins, you need to get Kirk Cousins off the spot. If they can do that, force him to move left or right, they've got a chance to get a couple picks.
Real quick, and you just brought up a point. I know we talked about Joe Barry in this defense, but you just brought up a point that reminded me I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
I've never seen Dean Lowry play like this. Like I'm not, not knocking the guy. He's better at his job than I am at mine. But and same with Kenny Clark, though. Like you said, this is arguably Kenny Clark's best year. Is that Joe Barry? Like the production up front, they're able to stop the run with a light box, like Aaron Rodgers talked about.
I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, right? It has to be Joe Barry. But it also could be Devondre Campbell. I think he makes all the difference in the world in that next level for them right now. I mean, he's cleaning it up. Chris Barnes, we're not talking about him enough.
Yeah, you're not wrong right
come
there.
on. He played well. So I think they've got a good combination working with the defensive line and with that second level there with the linebackers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm fearful of Minnesota, not because the Packers are not a better team than them. I'm afraid of, like you said, Mike Zimmer, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen present problems.
Goodness.
I know the Packers just pretty much handicapped DK and Tyler to 52 combined yards, but I don't know. There's just always something. Division games are much different than Seattle, so. It'll definitely be interesting. If you do got time, I do want to ask you about the Badgers real quick.
Come on.
Because this is Cut the BS. This is all Wisconsin sports. I don't know, Gary. I don't know, Gary, if I've ever rooted harder for a college athlete than Graham Mertz. I want him to succeed so bad because a couple things. The hate that he's got early in the season. He struggled with COVID last year, obviously missed a ton of games. They control their own destiny now. They win outright. They're going to play Ohio State, and who knows what happens. Everybody is saying they can't compete with Ohio State. You got to play the game, and we'll see what happens. But just a couple minutes, your thoughts on the season for the Badgers thus far.
Well, I mean, you look at their schedule opening up, it was just tough. And the Badgers, for some reason or another, they are a team that normally gets better as the season goes along. I mean, you jump out with Penn State right away, a game that they really should have won. And then they got Michigan, who they're playing really well right now. So they played a lot of top-ranked teams right away with a relatively young team on the offensive line. So I think what you're seeing now, I mean, if you watch the last game, I think Mertz hit about 6 or 7 different receivers. The offensive line is playing well. They found a running back, which they didn't have early in the season, in Braylon Allen. He's a stud. And I think that's kind of helping them offensively. The defense is always going to be good because they got a lot of plug and play guys. I mean, Leo Chanel, number 5, Sam Barn. I mean, those guys are always going to be there for this team. But I think what you've seen as of late is, one, the offensive line's gotten better, and they found a running back that can carry the rock.
When you look at Wisconsin, Gary, and you know this better than anybody, and that's because you played the position there, you go all the way back to, as far as you can reach back. This team, this program has produced just running back after running back after running back, and they haven't skipped a beat. Have they made it in the pros all the time? Not all the time, but that's all right. Is Braylon Allen one of the best? Could he be the best of the best? I mean, he's only 17.
I can't answer that right now. Don't do that to me.
I'm putting you on the spot. I gotta
wait. Yeah,
I know.
Let me see another year. But I tell you what, I mean, I've seen some things out of him that is truly amazing for a guy that size. So
Yeah,
let's give him another year.
And only 17. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
he's
give him.
he's
I
a
mean, the age is one thing, but the speed, the size, the agility that he has, you don't coach it.
You don't. And
you don't coach it.
Yeah. And it's been, again, credit to Paul Christ. I love Paul Christ. That's another guy that I go down defending. A rocky start to the year, a couple of games they could have won, but to be back to controlling your own, and that's all you can really ask for.
That's all you want.
That's all you need. I mean, you want to be able to be in that game against Ohio State and show what you got. Right. So I'm looking forward to the Badgers finishing off their season, hopefully in Indianapolis. So
I'm there with you, bro.
We'll see. Real quick before I let you go, before we get out of here, have you tried for your back? I know now we're getting way off topic. And I texted Sparky. I don't know if he ever asked you acupuncture.
No, but my the doctor that I went to see for my cortisone treatment. Did refer me to someone to do acupuncture. Yes. Yeah. So I have not tried it.
I did all those shots, and if you ever get into, we're losing all the Packers and Badgers viewers right now, but that's okay. We're talking about back injuries. If you ever get into the steroid injections, it was the most painful thing I've ever done.
Really?
It was awful. I was, Gary, like this close to crying. It was bad. It was awful. So
see, my problem is because I've always taken shots almost all my life.
Yeah.
Playing football. Piece of cake.
Yeah. Well, the needle's like this. When I saw the needle, I was like,
no, don't look at the needle. That's your problem.
Yeah.
Don't look at the needle. Just lay down, let it go.
It was not pretty, but no, seriously, man.
So acupuncture is the way to go. You're saying?
So I've been doing it for about a month and a half. And it's helping. It's acupuncture and cupping. And I don't know what the cupping is. I think they heat a cup up and they whatever they do. I can't give you the terminology, but it seems to be a little bit better than going in and because I used to go in every 90 days and get the same shots. That you're talking about. Those shots, they would do something for like 2, 3, 4 days, and then that week later I'd be like, oh man, it's back again.
Right.
So I've been doing the acupuncture, and it seems to be a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely something to check out. It's worth a shot.
There we go. All right. So let's talk about it a little bit offline, can we?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary, thank you so much for joining me again. You guys can follow him on Twitter at Gary Ellerson. You can catch him 10 to 2 on the Wendy's Big Show statewide radio network, the Big Show Radio Network. You can also catch him on the Odyssey app. Download the app, check him out after Packer game as well.
Absolutely.
So Gary, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful evening, everybody. Go Packers, go Badgers, go Bucks. The Bucks are back in action.
Right.
Again, you can follow us on Game On Wisconsin at Game On WI. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. And I hope all of you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful Friday, and an awesome weekend. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks for having me.